Hello, friends. Welcome once again to Pod Maverick. This is Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. We are joining you live a little earlier than we've been recording. It's 8 p.m. on Tuesday, August 15th. I'm joined by Josh Bowe of Mavs Moneyball and Pod Maverick. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing good. You see behind me, Kirk, my window, there is sunlight still coming out of it. So we're doing it. We're recording before the sun is gone, which is, I don't think we do that very often. So it's a good night. It's a good day.
True. Like the podcast is literally called After Dark.
Yeah.
Normally, just because when it's in season, we're obviously doing game recaps, and there's very few of these we do during the daytime. But that's kind of here we are. So it's been a long weekend. You took some time. I drove to Kansas City and back, which was it could have been a more pleasant drive. Lots of Oklahoma involved, but I did have cell service because I upgraded my network to 5G, and so I didn't drive through Oklahoma terrified, and listening to different shows. And so I kind of sped home on Saturday. I was with my folks, and I sped home on Saturday because I really, really wanted to be back to watch the Hall of Fame induction for Dirk Nowitzki. And I just can't speak highly enough about how cool everything was for Dirk, Dwayne Wade, Tony Parker, and Pau Gasol, along with the various basketball coaches. Like Gary Blair from Texas A&M was inducted, and like I've followed women's basketball for kind of tangentially here and there. I didn't know he got his start at South Oak Cliff. Like just like it was all sorts, like just learned a lot over the weekend. That it's a little disappointing, like the that it wasn't kind of broadcast on a different network with like one of the various NBA partners. I mean, I know the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame is it's not NBA Hall of Fame, it is the Basketball Hall of Fame. So I'm sure there's maybe some rights issues, but like it was kind of hard to go. Like it seemed like lots of people couldn't see it because it was on NBA TV. It was just like disappointing because I'll tell you what, man, it was probably the coolest award show I've seen in a long time. And it fucking included various Spurs and Dwayne Wade. So it's like I had lots of reasons to not like this. And it was just outstanding.
Yeah, I think it helped. I mean, this is probably part of it, but obviously I didn't watch it live, but catching up on it, there wasn't a lot of like commercial breaks. Nope. It was, and that's probably part of why it's not, if it was on primetime on ABC, for example, there would be a lot more commercial breaks. They'd be selling a lot more ad space for that. So it kind of felt a little more intimate and real and genuine than you see from these types of like shows, these ceremonies. So that was really cool. And I think it was cool. Like it was just a really good class, and everyone seemed to be in good spirits. Everyone seems to be in good health, which always helps. And it was just a good time to see those guys tell stories and be heartfelt.
That's right. And what I really loved about it is you said something like everybody seemed to be having a good time. And what it strikes me as is like making your way up to Springfield, Massachusetts is probably a hike. It's probably a hike if you're a supersized human being that has to fit into normal sized vehicles and to get all up there. And it's probably not that fun to like plan for, because it's like, oh, I got to go here. But it's kind of like getting together with some of your friends that you want to see, but you don't really want to put in the effort. And then you go and you have a great time. And it's like, why don't we do this more often? and that kind of seemed to be kind of the vibe of the weekend. Becky Hammond got inducted to the Hall of Fame. The 1976 women's, I think it was like the first women's Olympics USA team got inducted. and there was a couple more coaches, a D3 guy who gave a really good speech. It's like he went through, he's like talking about the rest of his family, and it's like one of the most accomplished sounding families that I've ever heard of. It was like, why is just, it was just great to hear like people being proud of what they've accomplished in a way that did not feel like puffery or anything ridiculous. It was just a whole lot of fun. You know, on Friday, it was when they got their jackets and their rings. That was not televised as far as I could find, but I also was with my parents that day, so I could be mistaken. And they get these orange jackets, and obviously orange for a basketball, but brother, they are heinous looking. So
all of them
bad.
are. I think the NFL jackets are like mustard gold, right?
So bad.
Like, they're all, yeah.
And I don't really get it, but it was just like great to see everyone get one. And then the next night, so they go through and the speeches are all, I'd be curious to know. And if anyone in the comments knows or wants to leave shoot us an email, I'd be curious to know as to how they pick the order. So the players all got longer speeches. And the fact that there were some coaches that got to get they were presented, they're enshrined in the Hall of Fame, but they're often pre-recorded video messages. There's real back and forth because like lots of people were asking me like, why is Dirk Nowitzki not going last? Why is Dwayne Wade going last? Because pretty sure most like top 25 lists would have Dirk above Wade. Like it's, I guess you could make an argument, but I don't know what that argument would be. But I didn't care. That was the thing I found out about tonight. It's like I didn't care. Tony Parker has 4 rings and a Finals MVP. You know, Pau Gasol has a couple of rings himself, pretty sure, and is just an incredibly decorated player. It's just I didn't find myself caring because everybody's speech felt very true to who they were. Like Tony Parker was oddly hilarious. He told a really cool story about how when the Spurs lost to the Mavericks in 2006 in that really epic semi-conference finals matchup, he was really upset for Michael Finley, who had joined the team because of, I want to say it was, didn't the Mavericks have to amnesty him?
Yes, they did.
And so he said for the 2007, like that season, his only goal was he wanted to win a ring for Michael Finley. I'd never heard that. Also, had kind of forgotten Michael Finley won a ring with the Spurs.
I did too.
It's such a long time ago. It's 15 years ago at this point. But it's just like stories like that. Pau Gasol's speech was like really heartfelt, kind of awkward. Dirk's was great. I contend that now Dirk has the best haircut of his career by far. It's short. It looks like a strong dad haircut.
He had a great suit. I loved his suit.
You liked the double-breasted suit?
I thought it was cool.
Okay.
Might be a little corny or old school, but I thought it looked good on him.
The
colors look good. Yeah.
The colors did look. It's the double-breasted of it all.
I know it was kind of silly.
It's like, is he a night court? Like,
I know.
This is like, what is going on here? He was still so funny.
Yep.
I'm gonna talk the entire Mavs fan base into believing it was Dalton Trigg who he had to shush at the start of his speech. It was not Dalton, but we're just going to propagate that lie because it's that kind of year. Dalton was there. Grant Afsess was there, but the room's pretty small, so it's like you didn't really get like the best of seats.
Did they let anyone in?
They did. Fans were up high, but I mean, everybody down below, you pan like the crowd, and it's like basketball royalty.
Yeah, I didn't know they let public in at all. I thought it was just only invite only.
Right. I mean, it was like Dalton was up there because he got some good pictures from up high, which I thought was pretty neat. And so then there's Dwayne Wade's speech, which it was very good, but I'm never going to give Dwayne Wade too much credit for anything because he's Dwayne Wade. But it was just this nice to hear. It's a capstone on a career we have celebrated a ton, and getting to see, like Bob Sturm wrote a piece for his Substack that I enjoyed. Brian Damaris wrote a piece, and like these are guys who have covered Dirk from a professional sense or been around him in one sense or another for longer than you and I, because we've been fans. I mean, we were teenagers when Dirk was drafted, and so it's a different situation. Mark Stein's coverage was peak as always. He just really lovely coverage from everything, and it's not like you ever really put Dirk to bed, but I ran a piece from one of our fans of Mavs Moneyball on the site about how Dirk's led like a really satisfied life at this point, and that's what seems so cool. Just watching how happy he seems to be. So many of these guys seem to be like searching for something, and Powell actually talked about that, how hard like the first years are after retirement because you just got to recenter yourself. And it was just really great to see like Dirk, he's traveling around the world. He's an ambassador for lots of different things. I just had a great time with it. I really did. My favorite part of the whole evening though had to be Dirk's wife. They pan in on the family, and his wife is sitting, he's got both boys on either side. And the youngest boy was doing the exact same thing that he did at the jersey retirement ceremony, which was making it very clear he did not care. And it was so funny to me because his wife is just this stunningly beautiful woman, and she has this look of mom angst, and my wife was dying because she's just like, yeah, that would be what if you were getting an award for anything, your son would not care. It's just, that's parenthood in a nutshell. It was great. It was
great. Yeah, it was a good time. Dirk is, I think, something that maybe like we know this, but now everyone knows this, is that he's a funny guy. Like I think I saw a lot of reactions that were like, wow, that was like, he's he's got some dry wit to him. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought his speech was on the money, just in terms of kind of encompassing who he is and what he's about. I thought it was kind of fun to contrast, like, because, obviously Mavs fans don't have they're not fans of Tony Parker and Dwayne Wade, obviously, because of the rivalries, but I think anyone can appreciate that they're somewhat ambassadors of the game in certain ways. And it's kind of funny to see like all of these stalwarts, Dirk and Pop and Wade and Gasol and Parker, all have this moment, and then like contrast it with like what's happening in the real NBA with like Damian Lillard and like James Harden and Daryl Morey. And it was just a reminder, like Dirk and, those other guys too. Like, it's not just Dirk, but those guys are like one of one, and you're just not going to see, those guys are special, and that's why they're Hall of Famers. And that's why they're so beloved in their communities, especially Dirk. And it was just a reminder of that to me, like seeing everything going on in the real NBA with the Hall of Fame. It was just like, yeah, there's not going to be another Dirk. And we knew that already, but it was just another reminder.
Yep. And, it reminded me. So like I refer to this piece probably once every 2 to 3 years, like 10 years ago, and it was when Kobe retired. Our former colleague and friend, Andy Tobo, wrote this long piece. I've got it linked on my Twitter. It's kind of hard to find, but it was a really like pretty piece about how, I'm just going to read you a section of it. And he wrote, "Where am I going as a basketball fan as they begin to leave, as these lights I loved go dark? It's hard to imagine that another era could be for me what this one was. I suppose that I know one thing: as the years go on, if they're lucky for us, I will find myself often again where these ladders started, as old people do, revisiting the golden age. And one of the finest ornaments is gone on ahead, limping away at last." Now, he's obviously talking about Kobe, which is particularly interesting because Andy didn't really care about Kobe. But I really think about that whole section and think about it often just in relation to these players, because one of the things I have a hard time with is, do we love these guys because they were there in our formative years, or do we love these guys because they were special, or was it both? Because with each passing year, there's always new stars, and it's fun to just think about, because I really don't think there's a good answer. But when you're watching all these packages and you see the way these guys talk about each other, like Chris Bosh is openly talking about how Dirk scores over him to take away an NBA championship, and doing so in a way like sort of like just with a sense of respect that's so cool. Kevin Garnett, who Dirk cooked, and a lot of those guys didn't really like Kevin Garnett, had such like kind of really incredible things to say in like the pre-speech highlights about Powell and him. And it's just, I don't know. I love that part of this. I love that part of sports. Basketball doesn't get to that often enough because there's so much like drama in the day-to-day, and like, you refer to like the James Harden and Damian Lillard of it all right now. You wonder if one day we'll be able to like push past all the nonsense and only remember the really cool parts. I hope so because basketball is a neat sport.
Yeah. And it helped, I definitely understand the nostalgia part, but I guess an argument for it actually was like this. It wasn't just nostalgia. Is the era of guys playing a guaranteed 8 to 10 years is gone. It's just gone. I mean, James Harden is an MVP, and his resume. I mean, he's got a Hall of Fame resume. Really, he's played for how many teams? Like 3 or 4 teams.
He's asked for 3 trade requests in,
yeah.
in 4 years.
Kevin Durant has changed teams a couple times. He's made a trade request. Like, LeBron's changed teams like 3 or 4 times, and he's going to go down as at least the second greatest player that's ever played the sport. So I think part of that era that made it so special was like Dirk and KG and Duncan played each other like 4 times a year for like 10 years. Like you forge rivalries through that kind of repetition and competition.
Yep.
So I don't know if it's going to swing back. The pendulum swings back, like with the way future CBAs work out, or how guys want to brand their image. Maybe like loyalty makes a comeback in terms of being like a brandable aspect. I know Lillard has kind of tried to latch onto that. So we'll see. But that's part of that was just built into the game. Just guys just didn't
do that.
Yeah, they just didn't do that. It just wasn't part of the game. It wasn't part of, it wasn't easy to do in the CBA, which again, it's not knocking anyone. It was just kind
different.
Of it was just different.
Yeah. And that is, I'm looking, I always look forward. We do this once a year, once every 2 years. There's always something Dirk related. And I think, we'll circle back on the same stories, but the Mavericks did such a wonderful job of sending Dirk off between between the, his final home game, the statue unveiling and the jersey retirement. I mean, there's just been a lot of stuff where it's just like, you feel like they did everything right by a guy who deserved everything to go right. So I don't know. It's not that we're going to bury it, but there's just
this was the last big one. Yeah,
this is the last big one, and we managed to get 20 more minutes out of it. Before we move on to a couple more things, just wanted to ask if you could to go ahead and like the stream. It's a mid-August show. We ain't got anybody in here despite the number of subscribers that we have, and that's okay. I'm going to get better about regular posting so you guys can know when to expect if you'd like to join the live show. If you could also go ahead and hit subscribe if you are new and or are interested in that, I would be very, very grateful. At some point in here, we're going to be having more live reads and things like that, just because that's, Josh and I certainly don't do this for the money, but we do, if we're going to be here, we might as well try a little bit. So things like that will probably be coming next season. But for now, you get your YouTube ads and that's kind of where we are. A couple news items. You and I were talking before the show, and I can't believe we blanked on this. But the actual piece of news that matters relative that what folks would want to talk about is like the Mavericks signed Derek Jones Jr. finally to a 1-year deal. I was in the middle of Oklahoma when this happened and started laughing out loud in the car as I was driving.
Yeah, I guess this gives a sneak preview on our thoughts with the fact that this didn't come up in our pre-show talk.
Nope, it's not in any of the description. Like I just completely forgot about it because it happened. It happened. Today's Tuesday, and it happened on Wednesday. It happened like 6 days ago now.
Yeah. I think it's funny. This is one of the guys I included in that Anchorman meme I made about like I love Jaden Noel. I love Derek Jones Jr. Do you actually love them, or you love them because they're the only remaining free agents? So it's kind of funny the Mavericks assigned one of those guys, but it's one of those things where it's like it's fine. It's fine. It's the last signing. It's a minimum deal, so I don't even think they cut into the MLE that they have left. So they still have some MLE for buyout season. So financially, it's a win-win. He fills another position of need, and I'm going to be honest. I would rather have Derek Jones Jr. on the minimum than that offer sheet they wanted to get Matisse Thybulle for.
This is spicy. You might have to write this, even if it's short.
I might.
This is just a great take. This is a great summertime take.
Yeah, I just, they're kind of similar players.
I don't know. Like the dude's listed as a forward center and he's 6'6". Like, what does he do? He has like great pick and roll stats.
Yeah. I mean, he's a wing. He's playing big because he can't shoot and he doesn't have perimeter skills. So that's why he's running the pick and roll, which, hey, that's cool. Like if he's going to want to stay in the league, the fact that he's like doing that maybe gives an indication to like his mindset a little bit. Like, cause trust me, we were big men. I know we only played in high school level, but perimeter guys do not want to do big. They don't want to do big men work and the job that the big men do. So
that's right.
If he's doing that and not, complaining about it because he knows that he has to stay in the league because that's the only way, then that might be something cool. And hey, we've seen Luka turn these types of guys into productive players. So credit to his agent. I hope if he wanted his guy to have an NBA career, play next to Luka Doncic.
It's really funny because he backed out of he turned away the final year with the Bulls that was worth more money than the minimum. So somebody screwed something up, but it's like Glenn Simpson in the chat says we just need 10 minutes from him a night. And they might not even need that. But you're right. Like it's great though, because there's a little side part, and I'm just gonna be candid. I don't care for the concept of Theo Pinson. I don't know Theo. I've never spoke with him, never will. But I would much rather have Derek Jones Jr. in the 15th spot than Theo Pinson. Like I would rather have the actual functioning, been in the league NBA player than the small forward who podcasts. And this is me. And I think that what he has the opportunity to give Dallas once every 3 games is fantastic. And if it works, it's great. If it doesn't, okay.
Yeah. I mean, think about last year, the 13th, 14th, 15th spots were like Campazzo,
they rotated guys out.
McKinley Wright, Kemba Walker, Frank Ntilikina, Theo, and now that's Dante Exum, Derek Jones Jr. Again, not stars. And not necessarily, but they just give you just a little. There's just a little bit more there, and it shows what we talked about. Like these spots aren't going to make or break your season, but me and you every time in the offseason say every spot on the roster gets a chance at some point. Injuries, guys sitting out. You don't at a certain point, Derek Jones Jr. is going to need to play 20 minutes in a game because maybe Grant Williams sprains an ankle. And Prosper
be like a -15 in those 20 minutes. Like he just needs to not die.
Yeah.
And and is the phrase innings eater kind of fair here with one of these guys?
I think so. And at least he fits like an archetype that they need. He's athletic as hell. I mean, he's another. This is another guy that can maybe coax Luka into running a little bit more because he's gonna run.
Sure.
How much have we wanted guys for Luka to Luka hasn't had anyone to throw alley-oops to for 3 years besides Dwight Powell, and now he's got Jones and he's got Lively, he's got Prosper. He's finally got some athletes and some guys that can get out on the open floor. So again, he's not going to be the difference maker. He's not going to be a guy that plays big minutes in a playoff game. He's not even going to play. He's probably not even going to play in a playoff game if they make the playoffs. But if you just kind of judge the likelihoods of how the season is going to end up. But again, I would much rather the last signing be someone of his caliber. He's played 344 NBA games. He's a career about 18-minute per game guy. I mean, he can't score, he can't shoot, he can't pass, he can't dribble, but he's big, he's long, he's athletic. He has some tools defensively, and he's showing with the last year. Playing some 4 or 5 as a pick and roll man, that he's willing to experiment with his game to stay on the floor, which
big. That's really big.
Yeah,
I will say one side note, because you said Dante Exum earlier. Haven't seen a minute of Australian basketball. Have been told though Exum looks nice, and I am willing to buy the hype train sight unseen. Throw me into Dante Exum just for right now. That really tickled me. I'd forgotten he was a Maverick for a brief minute. Also, do you remember the non-trade of 2019 for Derek Jones Jr. and
Kelly Olynyk?
Man, that would have been an interesting Mavs team.
Mavericks always get their guy.
Eventually, that's true.
Speaking of Exum in Australia, I don't want to know if I want to say this into the universe because I don't want people to get mad at me. But what are we? Is Josh Green with the Australian team?
Yeah. Okay. He's not playing any. That's okay. They're good.
What are we gonna do if he's not? If he doesn't play during the World Cup, or he plays and he stinks?
I mean, Dwight Powell played against Germany the other day and did the most. I don't know if you've seen this clip, but there's the most. It's the most Dwight Powell has ever Dwight Powelled. It's in a game they lost where he botches an open layup, it's impossible, and it's just so much Dwight Powell. It was just, but the dude plays so hard. And it's just, do you want to see him flail and fail, or would you rather see him ride the bench and learn as he's playing? Because, I've really liked, because he gave an interview. I retweeted it out today. Somebody in the chat says, I'm worried about Josh's elbow. He's not playing later today either. Okay. Thank you for that,
Didn't
guys.
he have an elbow?
Playing.
Didn't he have an elbow issue last year too?
He did.
Didn't that keep him out for a while?
Yeah. I mean, it's something to keep an eye on.
I just want him to look good in these other, because we just don't see him play ever. Yeah. He didn't play Summer League. He didn't play with the Australian team in the last Olympics.
And he gives this interview today where he talks about playing for his country. He didn't give it today.
Who, Dwight or Josh?
Josh Green. And I don't know, he's just talking like a different guy. He never struck me as the most confident dude. And so hearing him with a sense of pride in his voice, I don't know. I'm trying to buy in on Josh Green. It's probably something I'll never be able to do, but I'm going to fake it until I make it to a degree. But yeah. And so, we've somehow managed to we're 25 minutes in. We didn't talk about the next piece of news that was on our thing. There was, the NBA is now slowly trickling out schedule related stuff. They're making it a multi-day affair, which I think is fine. I don't think we even touched on the fact that the Mavericks, when the Christmas Day and opening day games are released, because that might have happened in between the last time we talked too. For opening day, the Dallas Mavericks, I think they're hosting the San Antonio Spurs. That'll be fun. Victor Wembanyama, who now has a purple streak in his hair, do not want. And then on Christmas Day, the Mavericks play the Denver Nuggets, which is, it's a fantastic.
They're playing
Christmas
the Suns.
Day. Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking Devin Booker, and I said just because the Suns beat them. You're right. They're playing the Suns, and that's a fantastic Christmas Day game. Just right. It's just vitriol and sass, and the Mavericks could get destroyed, but I cannot wait.
Yeah, I think the NBA is leaning into that Booker, Luka, good. After that playoff series, I think they're leaning into that, trying to make that a rivalry.
Good. The Mavericks should get run off the floor based on the talent disparity, but I don't care. Give me that game. I am pumped. That's a lot of superstars on the floor at one time.
Luka will be juiced.
Yeah. And then there's today they did the group play schedule release for the NBA in-season tournament.
I can't believe they haven't given this a real name. They're really just going with in-season tournament.
I mean, I think they
can't call it the Kobe Bryant Cup or the Wilt Chamberlain Classic.
It does have something, but it's it's so difficult because us NBA lifers just hate this on its face. Mark Stein hates it, and he's a big football guy, European football, obviously. But it's you got to start somewhere if you're going to try to start new traditions. And, it's the play-in doesn't really seem to work for people now. It's been a couple of years, but I still like it.
I like the play-in.
Yeah, it's I'm willing to give this a shot. The Mavericks, gosh, who do they play? They play the Nuggets.
Got it pulled up. Okay.
You do? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, they play the Nuggets Friday, November 3rd, the Clippers Friday, November 10th, New Orleans Tuesday, November 14th, and Houston Tuesday, November 28th. The Clippers and the Houston games are home. Denver, New Orleans on the road.
Yep.
And so they're basically it's in season, it's group play, but these are still regular season. They're not these games still count toward the regular season standings, right? Or no?
They do.
Okay.
They do. The only game that doesn't count towards the standings, I think, is the final two games of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. What's it say here? The team with the best record in each group will advance, as well as two wild card teams. The team from each conference with the best record in group play that finishes second in its group. Those 8 teams will play in a single elimination tournament, culminating in a championship where the winning team gets the NBA Cup and a cash prize. That cash prize is pretty important. I think everybody's underselling this.
Yeah.
Because it's you get these guys, it's Damian Lillard might not care because he's making X bajillion dollars, but for Derek Jones Jr., winning that, that could double, that could give him 50% more salary on the year. It's a pretty good cash prize.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's fun because the Mavericks group play stuff is some good teams. It's all it's Houston. Houston's probably the worst one out of who they're playing,
and they'll be feisty this season
mm-hmm.
for sure.
So.
My thing is I'm part of the I don't really care for it. It's one of those things though where I think if I wasn't doing this, if I was just a normal person that watched basketball and didn't do a podcast and didn't write for a website and like
Right.
had no media connection to it, I could probably get into it. But for someone that has to like cover the league and cover a team, it just feels like extra stuff that
More
I'm just
homework.
like, yes, yeah.
I don't want to learn no thing. You know, like
Yeah.
what comes to mind. I said this earlier. It's like no new friends. Like that's. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Don't want to do it.
So if fans are excited for it, like I'm not going to knock them for it.
Yeah. While I'm thinking about it, your camera died out there for a minute.
I'm working on it.
Did you happen to see Derek Lively throw some of the opening pitch at a Rangers game earlier this week?
Oh, I didn't. I saw videos online of him like warming up.
It's a good
on the
pitch.
field. I didn't see. Okay, he did good.
It went high, but who cares?
Yeah.
Like he got it there, and it's straight line, and I was like, yes.
Well, good. I saw some hilarious pictures of him standing next to some like sub 6 foot tall Rangers players, and that was hilarious. It was like me standing next to my wife.
We're all part of the same species, sure. It's like one of those photos.
He made professional athletes look like toddlers, like standing next to some of them is pretty funny.
That's right. Okay, now the last piece that I want to talk about. So Meta Robinson, our overseas correspondent, just did. I mean, like, number one, I love when she writes. Like, she's probably the most consistent person we have on staff by a country mile. So you hear me, Mavs Moneyball writers. The rest of you, Meta is the standard. Turns in great stuff. We're getting some hilarious camera feedback with you tonight. I don't know why.
Oh my God. Whoa. Might be time to upgrade the nondescript brand I bought from Amazon 3 years ago. And get something real.
What is it? You're getting like pulled into the Matrix by your camera. That's great.
Let's try that again.
Well, we're almost done here. So if it dies, so in the chat, someone asked if we watched Josh Green in an Australia team. No, we haven't. Honestly, I've been able to watch far less of the World Cup kind of like friendly matches than I wanted to. I'm going to try to.
They're harder to watch.
You got to seek them out in a way, but it's like I'm gonna watch this stuff if I have to. Also, my day job has just sucked ass, which has been really not great. But anyway, so Meta wrote this really fantastic piece where I don't know how she got this stuff. I don't want to butcher the guy's name. He's Luka's trainer, Anze Masek. I don't know, Macek. He's been Luka's trainer for a couple of years. And just gave some. Okay, he said this to the Slovenian Media Sport Club outlet this last weekend, and he gave a lot of great quotes, which she translated English, which is just, if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan who's been wanting Luka to get in great shape, it really seems like that this has been a summer step in the right direction. Josh and I have talked for 5 years about Luka and fitness being a journey. He gave a quote like this: shortly after his arrival from Dallas, we had a frank conversation. We realized that the time we have at our disposal is a great advantage. I told him that he can silence all negative and malicious comments for good this summer. He quickly told me that it doesn't even touch him, which is not surprising. Like, if Luka listened to criticism, some of this stuff would have changed earlier. But self-motivation is extremely important. He goes on to say he was extremely motivated. He wanted to do something. He is also driven by the last 2 experiences, as if he would like to make amends for the result at Eurobasket in 2022, even if he was not to blame for the wasted opportunity. The unfolding of the NBA season also fueled him. So it's great. I mean, the pictures with Luka, we're going to talk about this until he's like 50 years old. He just has the body type, which I think is relatable to a lot of us. Where it's just like, you eat a lot of salt, drink a lot of beer, you're going to swell up. Like, it happens. But his arms look good. He looks skinny. His legs still look like tree trunks, which is very, it's like, it's just a monster. To feel anything other than bullish about Luka seems silly. That's why we haven't really talked about him a lot this summer.
Yeah. And I think one of the things we talked about this season, where we were trying to when we were in the hell of it and we knew that the season had gone down the toilet, and we're just trying to talk about okay, well, what else do we say besides this team sucks? Is we were trying to think of all right, so what are some takeaways that could be good down the road? And it's like, this is the most failure Luka's has ever experienced as a professional. And sometimes it takes something dramatic like this to shake you into some sort of change, because his first few NBA seasons, I mean, he had everything figured out. I mean, he, as a rookie, he lit the league on fire. Came back his second year, he's already first team All NBA. He's shooting 70% at the rim. He looks like a LeBron James. They get to the bubble. He makes a game winner in Game 4. He destroys in their prime Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, 2 All NBA wing defenders in back-to-back years in the playoffs, even though the Mavs lost. But he looked fantastic, and they go to the Western Conference Finals one year. Like he was doing everything, and he looked immortal as a basketball player. And I think this past season, even though like statistically he probably put up his best season, you could definitely see some weak spots. And obviously the team had some weaknesses that he himself couldn't overcome. So sometimes it takes, you look down the line of all the greatest NBA players, you can point to moments of failures in their careers where they took that moment and said, okay, I'm going to take this and become something better from it. I mean, just good Lord, how many examples can we point to with Dirk where he experienced, failure that would have crushed some other athletes, and he managed to rise above it. So, this was the you don't want to call it a benefit. It's not good to have a crappy season where you finish 10th we 11th in the conference with one of the best players in the league. But if he can use that as motivation to reach another level, then, all for it.
Yep. Oh goodness. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Our
Boy, these are much easier when there's stuff to talk about, huh?
No, it is. It is. It's like we've had some, it makes me worry for one of these summers where we don't have any international ball. And it's like, what are we going to talk about? But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Trying to think if there's, anything I had like wanted to share. I'm like getting overly invested in fantasy football as always. It's that time. It's like I'm ready to be hurt again.
How was that was the first time you made the drive to KC?
In a while, Texas? Yeah, I've done it before, but it's been 15, 20 years. Yeah. It was, it's not bad. That's Kansas City's an interesting town. My folks live downtown. There's been a lot of attempts at urban renewal to a degree, which were pretty nice. It's just funny though. Like we have this talk every now and again, because I think you're pretty like sick of like the Dallas suburban sprawl, like as a concept, which, I can understand, but you and I both work from home. And so now that I get to do that, it kind of makes that but it's just like being in like a tightly packed city. It was like had some great, I have great food every city you go to, but it was nice to get out and about, do something a little different with the kid. You'll laugh at this. I absolutely forgot it was my mother's birthday, like while I was there. Great son. Really top notch work by me.
Hey, at least you were there.
That's right. You saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, right?
I did. It's awesome.
10
it's so 10. Fun. Yeah.
10 of 10. Everybody go see the damn thing.
Yeah, it's a great time. Great time at the movies.
Yeah.
Took my little brother. He's not even a Ninja Turtles guy. And he loved it. He had a great time.
I went and saw it at Alamo, so it was like 30 minutes of old cartoon and toy commercials, which was outstanding. Looking forward to trying to cajole my son and going to see that one again. But yeah, past that,
Did you know they put the 1980s series on some streaming like platform? I think like Paramount or something like Nickelodeon. Someone got the rights finally to the original, and it's like out there. Like I was on
100 episodes.
Yeah, I was on YouTube TV last night, and it was on Nickelodeon at like 9:30 at night, like an episode from 1987, and I was like, okay.
Well, the best part was like after it, my wife and she just does stuff like this because she can. She's the breadwinner. She just goes to the toy store with Parker and buys almost every action figure she could come across. And I was like, why did you do that? This child has too many toys. And she was like, well, my mom never let me have any of this stuff. She said we weren't allowed to play with it. And so it's like, okay, pretty good reason. Whereas me, I was a spoiled shit and had like the Technodrome and the blimp. So that won't shock anybody. But
I was with you. I had the Ninja, I had the Power Rangers, I had the talking sword, and I felt like a god at school. the lion sword that talks for the White Ranger sword. It was amazing.
What
I was the king.
What a reference. Well, on that, I'll probably try to host a Friday show. I did it a couple of weeks ago, and not a lot of people turned up.
I
Don't blame
listened.
anybody. It's that time of year. But I'll probably try to do so again and see if there's anything else we can talk about. Maybe I might cajole
People
Dalton
might come
into-
up because of the Derek Jones thing. People
That's
seem
true.
to want to join when there's roster moves. So
That's
maybe
true.
that happens.
And I would like to. I might cajole Dalton and see if he wants to come on because going up Springfield is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Oh man, so Leo in the chat wants you to know that it was a tiger,
Shit.
not a lion. Wow,
I'm
getting
sorry.
Power Ranger shamed.
I'll release a statement on Twitter. I'm an apology. That's a bad one.
Guys, thanks so much for hanging out. This has been a lot of fun. Josh and I enjoy spending time with you guys. Hope you will tell your friends, and we'll be back on this horse soon, getting a lot more regular shows. And till then, just go out and try to stay out of this horrendous Texas heat, and we will talk with you guys soon. Go Mavs.